this computer.
Were you able to start recording?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Um, Welcome everyone. It's really great to have you today. The session that we are going to have today, I really like discussing this. Um, Let me say that this is it is a little bit more informal discussion than the previous one. The previous one, I know that we talked about important topics like how to find a job, how to put together a really attractive LinkedIn profile, how to write your CV, your cover letter, etc., etc. And these are like formal stuff, formal things that we really need, and we really talk about it to succeed in our, like in finding a job and in kickstarting our professional career, and also like when we are recent graduate or early career professionals, we really need these things, right? It's really important. It's really like it needs to come in our top priorities: how to write down a CV, how to write down a cover letter, LinkedIn profile, how to put together like a really good strategy to get like get a really good professional career. But the topic that we are going to discuss today, as I said, I like to discuss it informally more than formally. So usually, when I have a conversation with the trainees, I have an informal conversation on this, which is business etiquettes and work office ethics. So business etiquettes and work office ethics. This topic is basically to address how we need to behave in the office, and what are the things that we need to take into consideration, especially when we recently joined like a company or an organization. I know that we discussed how to put together CV. Now consider that you submitted your CV, you did the interview, they accepted you. So what's next? So a lot of people, they think that once um, you are recruited, the job is done. You are going to start your professional career. You are going to work as hard as possible, and then you will be progressing in the career ladder, and you will succeed, and you will reach your goal. But there are a few details that often we don't consider, even though they are really important, that we need to take into consideration, especially when we are early career professionals, especially when we are recently recruited, to leave a really good impression. As you know, first impression lasts, and this is something that I firmly believe on. Hopefully, we will have a presentation about first impression. But I do believe that the first impression lasts, and I do believe that, not that I do believe, but I experienced that firsthand, either with myself or with people that I worked with, or I recruited, or I managed, or even like my line managers themselves. So that's why today we are going to talk about the business etiquettes and business etiquettes and work office ethics, how to behave, especially in the first days, what we need to do, what are the things that we have to do, the things that we should not do, the things that we need to avoid, the things that we need to take into consideration when we join a new profession or a new company or a new organization. So quickly, the agenda, we are going to discuss 5 main points. First of all, I'm going to quickly share 10 tips to navigate the first days in a new job. It's going to be quick highlights, really important tips that you need to take into consideration. Then we are going to dig deeper into 4 important etiquettes that we need to take into consideration in our um, professional career in general. As I said, when you recently join a company or an organization, but these tips or these etiquettes will also help you during your professional career in general. Even when you are, like you have 10 years of experience, you reach C-suite, which is CEO, COO, chief humanitarian officer, or chief people officer, or whatever. These business etiquettes will cover communication, which is something that we will heavily use in our professional career. Meetings, also, it's something we will basically go through every single day. in our jobs. And business meals, it's really important. And also the networking events. Networking events, it's something really important because these are the way, one of the key ways, not the way, because there is a lot of other ways how you can build network. And you get to know people that will, you know, that will open doors to you. But networking events is one of the most important ways to build network. Um, let's get started with the 10 tips. So these tips are not um the like they are not laws that we have to abide with when we join a new job. These are just guidelines, but guidelines that are really, really important, guidelines that prove to make a difference, at least for me. And of course, if you guys have any objection on any one of them, please drop a message or we can discuss it later in the Q&A session. So the tip number one, which is the basic of the basic, when you are recently recruited, the most important thing that you have to do is you have to show up early. If you are starting the job, or if the working hours of your job is 9 to 5, it's really important that you show up at 8:30 or at 8:45. Okay? Avoid to arriving late in your first day of the job, unless you have an excuse. If you have an excuse, you have to email in advance saying exactly when you will be showing up. If you think that you will be late because you have to do some administrative stuff, because I know that when you're recently recruited, you have to do some administrative paperwork. If you will be late, tell the HR or send them an email. Tell them, listen, the first day on Monday, I will be arriving at 10 because I will be doing this, this, and that. This is pretty simple. This is pretty basic. You have to show up early. This is really important. This is not only the first day, but you have to always try, especially the first month or the second or the third month. You have to keep showing up early, at least 15 minutes early, or at least you have to be sharp on time. This is really important for the first impression. The second thing is when you engage, because when you are recently recruited, when you join an organization or a company, maybe some of you went through this, maybe some of you they are still in university, but when you join an organization, the first thing that they will do, either the HR or the line manager, they will introduce you probably to every single one in the organization. So they will take you to what we call a tour. They will introduce you to everyone. So when they introduce you to everyone, it's really important to display confidence, because this is going to be the first contact with everyone. What is the key element to display confidence? It's to make eye contact and smile. Whenever you are introduced to someone, make eye contact with the person and smile to the person. And that's the best way to display confidence. And remember, the best way to leave a first impression, a great first impression, is to display confidence, and displaying confidence through eye contact and smile. The second thing is use a greeting gesture, of course, based on the culture. And if you are seated, you have to stand. It's true that sometimes they take you on a tour, but when they take you on a tour, sometimes you will miss one or two colleagues that they will be coming late or they will be on a day off. Um, and these colleagues maybe later at later stage when you are sitting in their office, they will come to you and they will introduce themselves. So it's really important when people comes to you and they introduce yourself. And this is not just necessarily in a job, but even in your personal life, guys. When people comes to you and they introduce themselves, if you are seated, you have to stand up. These are good manners at personal level, but also at professional level. So it's really important in the office that when someone comes to you to introduce themselves for the first time, you have to stand up, and then you either shake hands or either you bow. It depends of the greeting habits of the person. Some people probably they will not try to shake hand. So you have just, like, read the room. If the person is approaching you and then they will be shaking hands, that's great. Just shake hand. If the person is just approaching you, because I know that, with all what happened with COVID, people now they avoid shaking hands. So they will be standing there just introducing themselves. It is fine. So you have just act accordingly. Greeting gesture, it's really great. I mean, it's really good and it goes miles. So you, for instance, if you are in a tour, if they take you on a tour to introduce you to other colleagues, try to shake hands with everyone. If people they do not want to shake hands, it's fine. It's not a problem. Don't feel intimidated and don't feel ashamed. Some people, I know that some people they do not want to shake hands. It is fine. I mean, you need to take initiative. If people they do not want to shake hands, it's fine. But it's really important to make eye contact and to have a greeting gesture. As I said, I know that I'm giving example shaking hands, but other people they prefer other way, like bowing if you are in Asia, or also other people they just avoid, like um they they just like don't have any gesture. It's just like they stand there and they introduce themselves and they're like, um they do nothing basically. Um the fourth tip is you have to exchange names. So when you introduce yourself, obviously, you have to tell your name. So, hello, I'm Malik, and I'm the new project manager, right? And the other person will also give you his or her name. Try your best to remember the name because I know that um, when they will take you on a tour, there is a lot of stuff that they will introduce you to. Though it's probably going to be difficult to remember all the names, but try to remember the names. At least try to remember the names of the people that you will for sure work with. This is really important. And the reason why is that I want you in the first days of work, whenever you approach that person or talk to the person, try to approach them with their names. So if for example I recently joined, right? And I got introduced to Rada. And then Rada, she tells me, okay, her name is Rada. She's the American Corner Coordinator. I told her my name is Malik. I'm the new like IT assistant. As IT assistant. In 1 or 2 days, I will have some work with Rada. And Rada, she has like an issue with her laptop. So when I go to Rada, I would like the first thing that you always have to do is that I would go to her and tell her, okay, Rada, can you tell me what's the issue exactly with the laptop, right? I avoid to just go to her and I tell her, hey, how are you? Can you tell me what's the issue with the laptop? No, just tell her, okay, hi, how are you, Rada? Can you tell me what's the issue with your laptop? There is a saying, there is a quote that says that the two most beautiful things that a person can hear is his name or her name and her or his surname. These are like the most beautiful things. This is a code. Not everyone believes in that, but this is like random code, and it's really it it boosts a little bit our ego when we hear our names. That's really it shows that the person respects us somehow. So this is something that I really highly recommend. When you recently join a job, try to remember the name of the people that you will frequently work with, and whenever you approach those people, approach them by using their name. As I said, avoid to keep like the conversation neutral. Avoid to, hey, how are you? How can I help? Try, hey, how are you, Ghada? How can I help? So this is really important and it makes a difference. Don't over socialize. When you recently join a job, avoid over socializing because you need to take your time to integrate in the group. This is something well known. You cannot start from the first day by socializing, become friend with everyone, try to be funny, and this is we'll discuss later. No, like take your time. You will be working there for a year, for two, for three. You will have a plenty of time to become friends with everyone and to socialize with everyone. So the first days and maybe also the first weeks, try not to over socialize. And by over socializing, I mean, like sometimes I don't know, like see them, you see like a bunch of stuff or a group of stuff taking like maybe a cigarette break or a coffee break or whatever. Like it is fine to leave it for now. Just focus on the work that you are doing, right? Because when in the first job, in the first day of the job, or on the second day of the job, um, people, they do not expect from you that you will be 100% engaged with them. No, they will see of you like a new recruit, a person that is still learning and still getting used to the job and getting used to the group. And that person basically will take him or her a little bit of time to integrate. So it's fine if they are standing like all together outside in the balcony or in the garden, taking a break, and you are not with them. It is fine. Matter of fact, I tell you myself, even if you don't have anything to do, in the first couple of days or couple of weeks, try to avoid these gatherings, even if you don't have anything. It doesn't mean that you will not be a team player, no, but socializing avoided the first days or the first week. And the reason why, basically, because we will discuss it later, there is another point. Because before to socialize with the group and to socialize with people, I want you to take your time and to study. Remember this? I want you to take your time and study the colleagues that you are working with. And I'll explain later because this is another bullet point or another tip that I will share. No sense of humor. This is the basic of the basic, and this is the most important thing. If you think of yourself funny, if your friends or your family thinks of you funny, if you have a really good sense of humor, I really respect that. I really like that. This is amazing. But avoid it in the first days of the job and avoid it in the first weeks of the job. Take your time before to start displaying that sense of humor. Because I know, like, we all work in an environment that we have some colleagues that they have a good sense of humor. I respect that and I like that. I sometimes use sense of humor myself. But the thing is, um, try not to do it in the first days or in the first couple of weeks. Because people, as I said, some of them, they believe in the first impression. So if you will start by over socializing and like sharing jokes and sense of humor, etc., etc., people, they would look at you a little bit differently, or let me say, people, they would look at you unprofessional. They will think, some of them, they will think of you as unprofessional, because some of them probably they will not like your sense of humor. Not everyone will like your sense of humor, but um other maybe they will like. But the reason why you have to avoid the sense of humor, which is also the reason why you need to avoid over socializing, because I want you the first days of the job to study the colleagues again. Don't worry, guys. I will explain what I mean by studying your colleagues. Don't exhaust yourself professionally. I know that when you join an organization for the first time, when you are a recent graduate, especially when you just join an organization or a company, you want to prove yourself. You probably should not think of that way, because basically, if they recruited you in the recruitment process, you already proved yourself. So I see a lot of people sometimes when I recruit them, they work, the working hours is from 9 to 5. And then I see them coming at 8 and leaving at 6. I see them like working so hard and going above and beyond and trying to like show off their skills. I do not like that, because when you just joined, I expect from you to take your time to ask questions. I'm not expecting productivity from you unless it's after a month. I want you to just learn the job. I want you to learn the tricks of the job, and then you start the productivity. But if I see someone that is over engaged in the job, I see someone that who's not taking his time or her time, I see someone who's not asking questions and just diving straight, it's not going to leave a good impression. That's why do not exhaust yourself. If your boss gives you a task, do the tasks, and that's it. There is a video of Barack Obama. Maybe some of you they watched this, and when they asked Barack Obama, when there is someone who just joined your like the job, or I forget how they call it, like the presidential department or office. I think that when you join the office, what do you expect from the person? And Obama said, I expect from the person to do the job that he or she asked to do. That's it. So if your boss gives you something, do it, and that's it. Don't try to impress, don't try to show off. But guys, remember, this is the first days, the first weeks, and probably the first months. Once you master the job, once you understand the tricks of the job, after 1 or 2 or 3 months, then you start using your creativity. You start using your skills to stand out from the group. But I do not want you to try to stand out from the group from day one. Because if you try to stand out from the group from day one and from week one and from month one, you will be making a lot of mistakes. And if you will make a lot of mistakes, that will leave a bad impression. That's why I want you to take your time. They give you a job, do it, do your working hours 9 to 5, don't overwork, and then that's it. Again, once you will have like 1 or 2 months or 3 months experience, you master the job, you understand the work environment, you understand what your boss wants, you understand the goal of the job that you are doing. That's when you start using your creativity and slowly starting to stand out from the group. Tip number 8, watch your body language. This is really important. Body language, it's really important. Try to watch your body language, try to control your body language until you understand the work environment, until you understand the people that are surrounding you. I know that sometimes in the meeting, especially when we hear something or someone that is saying something that is that makes no sense or that offensive or that confusing, we have some facial expression that I would really appreciate that everyone would avoid these facial impression. I want you to stay neutral as much as possible. So whenever you hear something that probably you don't like, that you disagree, I don't want you to do any facial impression. If you hear something that you disagree, of course, there is a way how to express your disagreement. But all the body language, you have to avoid it because some people, they feel offended by the body language. For example, I know some people that when they say something that makes no sense, maybe for them, they believe that it makes sense. So these people, they would appreciate that someone correct them. But when they see that someone, instead of correcting them, they make some facial impression of what they said, they feel offended. So I want you guys to avoid that. Again, especially the first days and the first weeks of the job. Study your colleagues and engage accordingly. This is one important tip that I want to share with you. When you join an organization or a company, you have a job to do. You have a task that your boss will give you. I know that people will tell you, do your job and go home, and that's it. True, as I mentioned previously, don't kill yourself, don't exhaust yourself, do your job and go home. But the first days, the first weeks, and maybe the first 1 month, I want you guys to watch, look at me what I'm doing, to watch, and I said this in previous trainings. I want you to watch the behavior of your colleagues and of your line managers. Why do I say you have to watch? There is theory that is a theory that says that there is like the way that we think, it's either the eye side way of thinking or the mind side way of thinking. The eye side of way of thinking is that we see something, we believe in it, we take it as it is. The mind side way of thinking is that we see something, we take it, we analyze it, and then we do our interpretation. And this is something I discussed with you guys in previous training, and I want you to apply it all the time in your personal life, in your professional life, and most importantly, when you just join a job. I want you to use your mind when you're watching your colleague behaving, when you're watching your colleague during their breaks, when you're watching your colleagues during their meetings, when you're watching your colleagues, how they are reacting under stress, when you're watching your colleagues, how they react, how they, are they, for example, the loudest in the room? I want you to study your colleagues, because when you study your colleagues, you understand, for example, if that colleague likes sense of humor or not, if that colleague will be useful for you or not, if that colleague likes to work under pressure or not, if that colleague respect his or her line manager or not, if that colleague a team player or not, if that colleague has a good personal character or not. And you, based on what you see, you have to act accordingly. If one of the colleagues if one of the colleagues does not like sense of humor, obviously you're not going to use your sense of humor. If one of that colleague, for example, likes or I don't know, like likes, for example, to be alone during his or her coffee break or lunch break, probably you will need to avoid that person during their lunch or coffee break. If that colleague, for example, prefers meetings instead of emails, probably when you engage them, you can ask them for meetings, for one-on-one meetings, instead of sending them an email. So that's why I say you have to study your colleagues. You have to watch with your mind, as I said, how they behave, what they like to do, what they do not like to do. So you should act accordingly with those colleagues. And basically, um, when you engage accordingly, you have to take it easy. You have to see, as I said, you have to see which each one like prefers exactly, and you have to engage with them accordingly. And that's what I mean by studying. I hope that this is clear. We can discuss it further in the Q&A section. Okay. Number 10, dress to impress. This is really important. So when I say dress to impress, I mean, guys, that you have to dress properly. I do not want you to go wearing a suit. I do not want you to basically wear a tuxedo. I want you to just, like dress properly. I want you to dress properly for someone who's going to a new job. And I want you to keep dressing properly your entire professional life. It's not just the first day of the job, because let me give you an example. I worked in a nonprofit organization when I was in Tunisia. We didn't have a dress code, so you can wear whatever you want. Of course, like you can wear whatever we want, but like you have to be respectful. I personally wanted to have like a good outfit whenever I go to the office. It's something. First of all, it's like respect for myself, and I feel confident when I wear something nice. I go to the office. I wear like a shirt, and I wear like properly. I wear proper like something formal whenever I go to the office. And then there is a specific day when we had like an audit. And when the audit came to the office, it was like for big donor. And basically we needed someone to sit in the meeting with them. And because I was wearing properly, I had to sit in the meeting with the auditors. And was like, something really important, because you never know what occasion might present itself. You never know what people you might meet. So that's why you have to dress properly in the first days of the job, but also you have to dress properly in every day. This is my recommendation. The top priority is you have to dress properly in the first days, the first week, the first month. But my recommendation is to do it every day in your professional career. Now, etiquette for business communication. And here I want to talk about emails, basically. Why I want to talk specifically about emails, because this is the most common way of communication that we'll be using in your professional career. So for people who are, for example, still students right now, you have to understand that writing emails, it will be a key element for your success in your job. And handling emails will be key elements for the success in your job and your professional career. So it's really important for you to know how to write the email, but also how to handle emails. So in the email, you have the content, but also you have the subject. The subject line, it's basically the first thing that will appear in the recipient inbox. So basically me, if I have like a lot of work, I have like my inbox with hundreds of emails. The first thing that I'm going to see, I'm not going to open all the emails. I'm going to read the subject lines. So that's why the subject line, it needs to be brief, short, and straight to the line. The subject line is basically something that summarizes what's the content of the email. That's why, for example, if you are resigning, you put like a resignation letter. If you have like, good news, you put like good news, capital letters. But subject line, it needs to be brief, it needs to be catchy, and it needs to be short. So when your recipient goes to the inbox and he or she sees that they have hundreds of emails, and then they see your email, and then there is a catchy subject line, they will open the email. The content, when you write the content of your email, try to highlight the keywords. So there is one thing that I like to do that I learned from my previous job is that when I write the email, I highlight the keywords. When I highlight the keywords is basically when someone opens the email and they read only the keywords, they will understand what's the email about. They don't need to read everything. So this is really important, and this is really helpful because there is a lot of people that they receive a lot of emails that they do not want to go through all the email, so they just highlight the keywords. So when the recipient, your line manager, your boss, your donor, your project manager, when they read the keywords, they understand what's the content about. Addressing the recipients. Sometimes we receive an email from someone that we never saw before, and it's confusing for us if we say good morning, Mr. or good morning, Miss. So if you do not know what's the gender of the person, just write the name. It is totally fine to write the name. I know that in Tunisia we have the complex of we have to put like Monsieur, Madame. I know that in French, when we write like French email, you have to put it, and this is like a francophone mindset, which is probably we need to let go when writing our emails, is that it's totally fine to write good morning Malik or good morning Ghada. You don't have to write good morning Mr. Malik. No, it is fine. It is not a problem at all. It is totally okay. Let alone when you don't know the person, you never saw the person, and you don't know the gender. So keep it neutral if you don't know the gender. If you want to go one extra mile and you know the gender, you can put like Mr. or Miss. Respond within 24 hours. When you receive an email, and this is again for you guys, especially if you are students and then you will join and you will start your professional career soon and you will working with your emails. When you receive an email, you have to answer within 24 hours. So this is really important. You don't need to feel under pressure to answer right away. No, you can answer within 24 hours, unless in the email it's mentioned that this is urgent. If in the email it's mentioned this is urgent, you can answer right away. If you do not have the answer, please answer the email saying that this is well received. Expect my answer within this timeline because I need to get the answer for you. Again, when you receive an email and says that it's urgent, if you have the answer, answer right away. If you don't have the answer to that email, still answer the email, confirm reception of the email, and then tell them by when you will answer them. So this is really important, and it shows also respect. Even when you receive an email that is not urgent and you want to go the extra mile, you can reply, say that this is well received. I'll answer you by tomorrow. So this is really important, and this is display respect and display professionalism. Yeah, this is what I meant by confirm reception if it will take you time to answer. Timing is key. Must be within working hours and schedule send if needed. So when you will be working, when you will have a job, you will probably have a lot on your plate. You will have a lot to do. So if you will be working extra hours, if you will, for example, start working at 7 a.m. or at 8 a.m., and you will be finishing at 7 at night or 8 at night, guys, please avoid to send emails like at 7 a.m.s or at 8 p.m.s, because when I see people that sending email at 7 a.m. and 8 p.m., I don't feel impressed. I feel that these people, they work in extra hours, and this is not good. This is unfair because if you work extra hours, you are not getting paid for those extra hours. That's too much. So what I personally do, and I also work some more extra hours sometimes. Everyone will be working extra hours. There is none who won't be working extra hours. So what I do, for example, if I receive an email, I have to prioritize work. my top priority will be answering all the emails that I received. And I log in at 7 a.m., even though I'm supposed to start at 9. When I log in at 7 a.m., I start answering emails. But then when I answer the emails, I schedule send at 9:30, which is going to be like the working hours. So I write the email, I schedule the send at 9:30, and then 9:30 the email will go automatically as a reply. So this is one way that I do it, and it shows that it's kind of like also some respect to the recipient, and it also at least like you make sure that the person will receive it during the working hours. So this is something really important. Keep an eye on typos and spellings. When I say typo and spellings, sometimes on emails you have to read once and twice and three times because there are mistakes and it says a lot about your writing skills. So whenever you write an email, try to check the typos. Try to check if there is any spelling mistakes, guys. Okay. Etiquette for business meetings, whether it's remote or in-person meetings. So whenever you are in a meeting, you have to silence all your electronics. What do I mean by silence all your electronics? It means if you have a phone, you have to silence your phone. You do not put your phone on the table. I see a lot of people whenever in the meeting, they put their phone on the table. Do not put your phone on the table. That is not good. Like even if you go out, even you go on a date, even if you are with your family, do not put your phone on a table. This is to avoid, guys. This is professionally, it's a red flag. So the other thing is that if you are in an in-person meeting and you have a laptop, unless you do a presentation, unless you are using it to display data, you have to shut off your laptop and keep your laptop away. This is really important. So use only notebooks, or if you have any piece of paper where you write down your notes, yes, but don't use your laptop. Don't put your laptop on the table. Don't put your phone on the table. Silence your phone. Keep it in your bag. Keep it in your desk, but not on the meeting room. So this is really important because it shows that you are engaged in the meeting. Of course, if the meeting is remote, you don't have any option but to use your laptop, of course. But still, like even your phone, when you have a meeting remote, don't put it next to your laptop. So this is the best thing that you can do. It shows that you are engaged in the meeting. Verbal and non-verbal communication. This is really important. Pay close attention to what people say. Never interrupt when people they are saying a point, even if you disagree, even it offends you. You guys never interrupt. Let people finish their point and then engage in the answer. Listen carefully. And you have to listen to understand, not listen to answer. Some people, they listen, they just want to answer. Some people, they have the answer before even to listen what other people got to say. Avoid this, guys. So this is really important. For your answers, keep them short, sweet, straight to the point. I know that some people, it takes them a lot of time. They want to talk, they want to express their opinion, but try to keep it as short as possible and straight to the point. Be prepared. Whenever you have a meeting, try to take a little bit of time to understand what's the meeting about and understand what are the points that you need to share. And this is basically something that would really help to engage in the meeting afterward. So yeah. No food, obviously, when you have a meeting, unless it's a lunch meeting, it's fine, but no food on the table. A bottle of water or maybe a glass of water is fine, maybe a mug of coffee, it's fine, but try not to engage, try not to have like food on the table or eat while you are in a meeting. Share your ideas. I know that sometimes when we have ideas, we feel a little bit, how can I say? We do not want to share, especially when we recently joined. We tell ourselves, maybe this idea is not brilliant. Maybe this idea is not smart. Maybe I will keep it to myself. Do not do that. If you have an idea, be confident and share it. If it's wrong, it is fine. It's not a problem, but just sharing. Share your ideas. And this is really important. Whenever you're in a meeting, it's fine to share your idea, even if they are wrong. There is no problem. There is no harm for that. Um, do your best to participate. If you do not have an idea, for example, if you have no point that you want to share in the meeting, it is really encouraged that you meet. It is really encouraged that you say something. So try, guys, to at least ask a follow-up question. If you hear something from someone and there is a follow-up question that you want to ask, just ask a follow-up question. It can be like a basic follow-up question, but just avoid silence the whole meeting. It's fine. It's not gonna harm you if you like maintain silence the whole meeting and you don't have any point. It is fine, but I encourage you to participate. Camera should be on if meeting is remote. This is highly encouraged. If you are in a meeting, I'm not talking about this training. In a meeting in general, in professional meeting, try to keep your camera on. This is really something that I really encourage all of you to do it, because if you do not, if you, for example, have a meeting and your camera is off, for me, it feels that I'm meeting someone, um, and the other person is just like talking to me from behind the door. It feels like it's a confession room in a church. So that's why, like, I highly advise you guys to keep your camera on when you are in a meeting, because people, I would like to see the person. I would like, to see the facial expression of someone who's talking to me, who's having the meeting with me. Make sure there is no background noise. If you are in a meeting, just make sure there is no background noise. Make sure that there is no, like, construction happening, or something happening that will be distracting you. If on a Zoom meeting, show up a few minutes early to have informal chats. That is something that I really like whenever I have like a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting. I like to log in 10 or 5 minutes earlier, because whenever there is someone who also logged in a little bit early, I engage with the person. I get to know the person. If someone I've never met them before, if the person I met before, I ask them about, like, some, how was their weekends, if they are planning any vacation, if they are traveling, because that would make some sort of connection with the person. And that's what we call breaking the ice. You have to break the ice with the participants. If you know the person, you can discuss about, like, some events. If you don't know the person, just, introduce yourself. And that one way to break the ice. And basically, it's like in-person chat or in-person meetings. Usually when there is in-person meetings, there is what we call the icebreaker session. Or even before doing a meeting, there is maybe a coffee break or something. If you go to a conference, for example, each conference, it has a coffee break before the conference starts or in the middle of the conference. So people, they will get to know each other. People, they will break the ice. And that 5 or 10 minutes before the online meeting is your opportunity to break the ice with whoever will join early. So these are the etiquette for business meetings. Please drop your messages if you have any question on the business meetings etiquettes. Now, etiquette for business meals. I know that this is probably not going to happen with all of us. Probably it's not going to happen to any one of us. I'm just like sharing this. Again, this presentation um, doesn't necessarily, I mean, there are some key elements that apply to all of us, right? But for example, business meals, probably some of us will never go through this. But just in case this happens, right? So I personally know that, well, I worked before with an organization that works on Libya, right? And Libyan, for example, one character about doing business with is that most of the deals and most of the work or most of the agreements are built and done outside the office. So you have to go on a meal, you have to go on a coffee, you have to have, like, an informal event, an informal gathering, so you can build that relationship, so you can come to an agreement later on for on a specific work on a specific business. This is not only with Libyan, but there is a lot of different culture. I mentioned Libyan because that's with whom I worked before, but I know that there is a lot of cultures that's how they get deal done. There is a lot of million or billion dollars company mergers that happened over lunch and over dinner. But as I said, not all of us will probably have the opportunity to have like professional lunch or dinner with our bosses, with our partners, with our stakeholders. Just in case it happens, there are a few etiquettes that you need to take into consideration, but also please take into consideration these tips in your personal life as well. If you go on a date, if you go on a family dinner, if you go with a friends, etc., etc. Um, so when you go to a business meals, you have to understand that this is a meeting, not a meal. It's a meeting, not a meal. It means that if you are going there, you have to have a professional goal on your mind. You have to have a goal like professional objectives. You have a deal to seal. You have a partnership to build. You have to an agreement to conclude. It's not you going to enjoy like sushi or a pizza or whatever. So this is really important to have to keep in mind, guys. Just forget about the food. Remember the meeting. Be on time and show appreciation. If you are invited to the business meal, try to be on time and try after the meal to show appreciation. If you are invited on lunch or if you're invited on dinner, you have to be on time and you have to show appreciation. This is really important. Use good manners and be respectful. What I mean by good manners and be respectful, you have to be respectful to people who invited you, to people who are with you on the table, but most importantly, to the staff and the waiters who's serving you. So this is really important because you showing respect to the waiter or the waitress, it shows to the people with you in dinner, if they are your boss, if you are your stakeholders, if they are your donors, that you are a respectful person in general, and that will leave a really good impression. Learn etiquette based on where your host or guest are from. So if you are hosting someone, if you have like guests, or even you are hosted by someone, um, you have to, if that person is from another country, if that person is from Italy or from Asia or from Latin America, before going to a dinner, just Google some like dinner etiquette in those countries, right? And try to apply some of them, because maybe there are some things in your culture that you do in other cultures that they do not do. So you have to apply those. I know that there are countries, for example, in the MENA region, that they like to eat with their hands, right? Which is something totally normal. It's part of their culture, right? But these people, for example, if they are hosted to like, or maybe if you are hosted to a dinner with these people, probably you can go the extra mile. I mean, it's fine to use the spoon, but if you can go the extra mile and try to integrate yourself in their culture and eat with your hand as well, that will be totally fine. Remember, it's a meeting, not a meal. So probably some of you, they would say, no, I would stick to my culture. Again, I respect that, but the effect that it would have on your host, that you are following their culture and doing the same that they do, will be way much more better. So for example, if some of you right now, they would say, even if these people are eating with their hands, if the host is eating with their hands, I would still eat with my spoon. I would tell you one thing. Imagine that you have to seal a deal of $1 million with that person, or with that person who's, for example, from Ethiopia or from some places where they eat with their hands. Would you still eat with your spoon, or would you go to eat with your hands? And I'm talking here about $1 million deal. I'm pretty sure that you would go for it and you would eat with your hands. So this is what I mean by like, learn the culture of the person who's hosting you or your guest so you can engage properly. Follow the restaurant's rules. It's really important. This is not going to be your house. There are restaurant rules that you have to follow. If you have to wait outside until you are seated, wait until you are seated. So this is really important. Do not feel like, overexcited because you are hosting your boss or hosting your donor, or you feel that you are a very important person being invited for a dinner, that you would just like ignore all the restaurant rules. No, it's really important. Again, remember that the way that your host or your guest will see you treating the restaurant and restaurant staff will tell a lot about who you are and how respectful you are. So this is really important. Do not talk when your mouth is full. I'm not gonna dig deeper into this. Everyone know that we should not uh, talk while our mouth is full. Don't reach across the table. This is pretty simple. I mean, if you wanna reach, for example, for salt or for water, ask someone to hand it to you. Do not reach like, across the table and probably would make a mess. So this is really important. Silence your phone. It is something that we discussed before. When you are in group, when you are in a gathering, it's really important that you silence your phone. Even if everyone else is using their phone, do not use your phone yourself. Even if everyone else putting their phone on the table, you do not put your phone on a table. It feels a really it leaves, sorry, a really great impression. So this is really important, guys. So these are etiquette for business meals. Now let's discuss etiquette for networking events. Networking events, it's really important. Networking events is something that you need to take advantage of, especially if you are recent graduates, especially if you are early career professionals. Take advantage of networking events as much as possible because these events will help you to grow your network. And network, as I mentioned in previous training, they will bring you opportunity that with your skills will seize it yourself. So basically, for the network events, there are a few rules that we need to take into consideration. First of all, you have to understand and to know the dress code and do the basics. You have to dress properly based on the network events requirement and then practice good hygiene, which is also something that you have to take into consideration. Good smell, dressing properly, this is really important. Focus on a few strong connections rather than a large number of people. I know a lot of people when they go to networking events, when the network events they finish, they start bragging that they collected the contact of like 10 people. It is not about the quantity, it is about the quality. So if you are in a networking event, if you connect with 2 or 3 people that believe in talent, they will bring you much more opportunity than connecting with other dozen people or profiles that probably would not even answer your emails. So focus on connection rather than a large number of people. Focus on a few strong connections, sorry, rather than a large number of people. Quality over quantity. Remember this. Now, if you ask me how to spot the right person, basically, when you engage with a person and start talking, you will understand what people they are looking for and what's their goals, whether they objectives, whether they respect talents, whether they prioritize talent, whether they are looking for talents. And again, one step back, it's about using your mind, not your eye, using your mind side, not your eyesight. There is a lot of people that will say things. You have to analyze what they say to understand whether this person fits to give them or her my business cards. Try to help someone. Sometimes when we go to networking events, and this is something probably, guys, you will like experience, probably some of them experience it as well. Networking events, also, like if you went to party before, probably you spotted this. There are people that are lone wolves. What I mean by lone wolves is that there are some people that you will see they are standing by themselves. So what I mean by help someone, probably these people are timid a little bit. So try to find these people and engage with them and approach them and talk to them. So this is, sorry. So this is something that you can do. These people that are standing alone, try to engage with them and start a conversation with them. And that would probably break the ice for them and will give them a little bit of confidence so they engage with the group. And this is like a positive point for you. So this is really important. Have a business card ready. So try to have multiple business cards with you whenever you go to networking events. Try to avoid going to networking events without having a business card. So this is really important. I mean, I know that some of you, they will be students where they go to conferences. At least try to share your email when you introduce yourself. Try to ask if you are engaging. For example, I know when I was a student, I went to a couple of conferences. Of course, when you are a student, you don't have a business card. So when you go to conferences, I see some professors that I think that they will be like a great opportunity afterward for a scholarship. I just ask them to I ask the professors to give me their business cards because professors usually have business cards. When they give me a business card, I send them my email over email later on. So if you are students, I know some of you, they will say that they are students, they don't need a business card, that's fine. But when you are students, the networking events that you would go to, you will find like some professionals, you will find some professors, um, You don't need a business card. They do not expect that you have a business card, but ask their business cards in return. They would give you a business card, and afterward, over email, you can engage with them. But when you are an early professional, the first thing that you need to do, you have to have a business card. And you go to a professional network events and you can hand your cards to people that you get to know. If you are choosing a group, choose a group of small number. It's easier to introduce yourself. So usually when you go to networking events, they will be on groups talking, right? There will be a group of like maybe 5 or 6 people. Other group they will be like with 10, etc., etc. For you, try to use the small group. And then, the small group of 3 or 4 would be easier for you to introduce yourself and to integrate yourself in the conversations instead of a large group. When you are a large group of 10 people, probably it would be difficult to integrate in the conversation and to get to know everyone. So always target the small group. So again, first of all, you target the person who's standing by himself or herself, then go to a small group. When you go to a small group, never interrupt the conversation. If you go to a small group and the group is already discussing something, do not interrupt the conversation to introduce yourself. It is fine. Take your time, take it easy. At certain point, you will get their attention by making eye contact and smiling. Once you make eye contact and smile, the other person will make eye contact and smile. That's when you approach them, shake hand, and introduce yourself. So this is something really important. Never interrupt. Wait until the conversation will ease, then make eye contact and smile, and then the counterpart will make eye contact and smile, and that's when you handshake and introduce yourself. Use a conversation starter to break the ice. The conversation starter to break the ice. You can. There is many ways how to start a conversation, right? You don't need to ask. Obviously, you're not going to talk about politics, religion. These are two things off the table, but especially when it comes to starter, because I know that for networking events, some people with 10 years of expertise, they like to talk about politics, but here we're talking about conversation starters. Politics was never a conversation starters. Ask them how they heard about this event, whether or not they've been to this event before. Ask them about how do they know the host. Ask them about their hobbies. Ask them if they have any interesting plan during the weekend, etc., etc. Once you break the ice, that's when you start talking professions. That's when you start talking professionally. That's when you start talking about your background. That's when you start building the network. So this is some of the etiquettes for networking events. And that's it. So yeah, basically we discussed about tips you have to keep in mind when you join, when you are recently recruited, and when you join a new organization. We shared etiquettes about communication, specifically emails, about how to deal in meal business, like lunch or dinner, and how to deal also networking events. These are business etiquettes that you need to take into consideration in your professional career. As I mentioned, there is a lot of details, a lot of other details. Of course, we don't have time to dig deeper, but um, if we want to talk about business etiquette, it's probably going to take us like hours and hours and hours, because these are details that makes a difference. Yeah, that's it from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question again. I think that we have a few questions on the chat box. I'll try to answer them. But in the meantime, please, guys, feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions. Yeah, so let's start with Najla. Is it okay to use a notebook while being introduced to other people so that names are more easily remembered? Okay, so a notebook when introduced to other people. If you are in a meeting, if you are, because there is two ways you would be introduced to people. There is the tour, where they will take you to other people offices around the company, and they will introduce you to people. Obviously, when you are on a tour, you are not going to be having a notebook, walking around and writing names. That should be off the table. Just walk around, introduce yourself, and that's it. If you will be introduced on a meeting, because when you are in a meeting, there will be everyone, and then they will be introducing themselves. Your boss will say, this is Najla bin Abdullah. This is our new project manager. and everyone will start introducing themselves. That's when you have your notebook, and each one, they will introduce themselves. You note the name and the title, and everyone, whenever someone introduces their names and their titles, make sure to answer politely and say, pleasure meeting you, or a pleasure, or something. After each introduction, this is really important, and this shows respect. This is really important. But again, when you are in a meeting table with everyone, they introduce yourself, write down their names and their titles, make sure to answer like pleasure every time there is someone who introduces themselves. If you can answer with pleasure and with the name of the person, that's perfection. And that's really, really amazing. So this is really important, guys. If you were on a tour, you cannot have your notebook and write the names. However, if you go on a tour and then you go back to the office, you go back to your desk, take your notebook and write down the names that you remember. If you forget your names, if you forget some names, sorry, ask your boss about that person who's in IT. What was his name or her name again? He or she would tell you, and that you can write the name. So this is really important. On a tour, no notebook, no taken notes. On a meeting table, yes, you can do it. I tried to use their names once or twice during the first conversation meeting. The name eventually sticks. Yes, it's correct, Jihan. Try to use the names once and twice and the name sticks. That's for sure. Yes. Believe me, it doesn't. In my case, I forget names if I use them. If you forget names, you have to write them down. Yeah, I already told you the approach, Najla, how to do it. Whatever works for you is good, I guess. I can totally relate to what you said earlier, though. Intimidated. Is intimidated for me? Thanks. At least you'll easily recognize me next time we meet. Why not, inshallah? Okay, that's a conversation between Jihan and Najla. Okay. If someone asks you for a business card, that means he wants to connect with you and establish a relationship. True. If someone asks you for a business card, they want to establish a relationship. But it doesn't mean that they will reach out to you. They doesn't mean will approach you. Like there is a couple dozen people that they asked my business cards and they never reach out to me. I got a business card of many people that I never approached. I never approached them. But of course, I still have those business cards because you never know. Maybe I will use them one day. So this is really important to keep in mind. But it's true. If they ask for your business cards, it means that they have interest to connect with you. Question: what's a polite way to exit the conversation if I need to move on to another person? It is pretty simple. It's pretty simple. It's pretty basic. If you were in a conversation with a group, and or if you are in conversation with one-on-one, you can finish, for example, like after a conversation, you can say, "Okay, then it was really great pleasure meeting you." And yeah, like I don't know, like you can what you can say. You can say like, "Okay, then it's a pleasure meeting you. I will try to meet another person, or will try like to get to know other people. This is for sure. Or maybe see you around." This is like something how you can finish the conversation with. Make sure to say like it is really a pleasure meeting you. This is really important, and then get going with the group as well. It's really great pleasure meeting you guys, and that's it. I mean, you don't need to give explanation. I know that when it's one-on-one, it's harder than a group. In a group, you can say like, "Okay, then guys, it's really great pleasure meeting you," and that's it. You can like go, because when you say that, people there understand that you have to move on, right? And even with the individual, you can say, "Okay, then it was really great pleasure meeting you," and that's it, because this is the closure of the chat that you guys have. This is like how to end a conversation, by saying that it's really great pleasure meeting you. And also, if you can ask for business cards to get in touch, it's amazing. Okay, then it's really great. It is really a great pleasure meeting you. Do you have a business card by any chance? And that's it. Can we connect in privacy? If yes, show me the way. You can use one of my social media. Yeah, you can use my social media. I think that you asked this before, but you have my social media. You can connect with me. I have no problem. Is it okay to ask someone to remind me of her name? Absolutely. Yes, of course. And people will probably remind you for ask you to remind them your name as well. It is absolutely no problem. What's the best way to follow up after a networking event? How soon should I do it? My camera went on accidentally, was on. Jihan, it depends why you would approach them. Depends on the timeline. It depends on your needs as well. Because, for example, if you go to a networking event and you ask, for example, if you are a student, okay, you go to a conference and there is a professor. If you are a student of, say, IT, you go to a conference and there is a well-known professor for IT in a university where you want to apply for a scholarship, right? And it's the end of the year already. So the next year you want to apply for the scholarship. You get a business card of the person. Once you go back, 1 week is enough to send an email, to connect with them, to tell them your story, that you are interested to apply for the university. Do you know any scholarship? Usually 1 week is enough, but make sure if you approach the person, you are approaching them for a reason. There is a why behind it. You are not just approaching to keep contact, but you are approaching them basically to there is a reason behind it. If you want to get some tips about something specific, if you want to talk about specific article, if you want to apply for a scholarship, if you have interest to understand few details about the project, about specific company, you can approach them. 1 week, 1 week, and then you can reach out to them. But again, you have to have a specific reason. You cannot just approach them just to connect. For intimidated, no, was just trying to help with the word you were looking. Yes, intimidating. True, Nezla. Thank you. Some business meetings can be international, I guess, right? How to navigate the culture differences and avoid some possible misunderstanding or so. Um, how can I say? Yassine, it's a good question. How can I say? So if you keep it simple, you will avoid all misunderstandings. But I mean, so there is one thing common worldwide, right? It's to have a simple conversation. Don't complicate things. There are a few topics that you need to avoid, which is sexuality, religion, conflicts, politics. These are common topics that you need to avoid. But for example, if you discuss with someone latest um, innovations or discoveries in a specific area, for example, if you're going to a networking event about astronomy, obviously everyone will have interest in astronomy. If you're going to discuss with people um, the latest discovery about astronomy, everyone will be keen to discuss this with you. Doesn't matter what's their culture, doesn't matter what's their background. Um, but if you're trying to, how can I say it? Not show off, but don't be, don't overcomplicate things. It's pretty simple. And the misunderstanding happens when you try to use sense of humor, when you try to impress, when you try to overcomplicate things. These are when sense misunderstanding happens. So this is important. Sometimes, and it often happens, the misunderstanding is when in greetings, and when shaking hands. Shaking hands is the international gesture to introduce yourself. If you try to shake hands and the other person would not want to shake hands, it's fine. Do not feel intimidated. Do not feel ashamed. It is totally fine. You have to respect that. Keep smiling. Do not feel pressured or embarrassed. There is nothing to be embarrassed of. But beside this, if you keep the conversation simple, if you ask people, for example, about their hobbies, about their best or favorite vacation destination, which is common topics on icebreakers, you will not fall into misunderstandings. You will definitely not fall misunderstandings. So that's why I keep it simple, keep the conversation focusing on the topics of the networking event, and everything will be fine. I hope I answered your question, Yasin. Thank you, Jihan. See you next time. Amal, I'm a fresh graduate. What can I put in a business card? Generally, it's the high-ranking corporate people who hand you business cards and events and the importance of their position within that industry. Also, businessman would have your the business cards and maybe freelancer, but as a fresh graduate engineer, for example, I'm still thriving within the industry, maybe still looking for a job, but today there isn't something special for me to put in business card. In short, I don't think there is a need for a business card for fresh graduate or junior engineer. Such people might work on will they reach a position where they can start. Yes, ML. If you are fresh graduate, you don't have a job, you don't need a business card. It's basically the same example that I mentioned for people who are still students and they go to a conference. When you are fresh graduate and you go to a networking event, you can ask for business cards. You don't need to hand business cards because people, if they ask for a business card, just tell them that you are still fresh graduate, and hopefully soon I will have a business card. But ask their business cards. Once you have the business cards, you can, as I mentioned before, after 1 week, reach out to them for any request or any inquiry that you want. But as fresh graduate, you don't need to. Yes, you can still work on your LinkedIn profile, but here we are not talking about remote meeting. We are talking about in-person networking events. When you are in in-person networking events, you're probably not going to be sharing your LinkedIn profile. People, they will not be connecting on their phones to add you on LinkedIn profile, but people, they won't have a business cards. They would like to have a business cards. When you are fresh graduate, again, you don't need a business cards. When you are a junior engineer, once, I'll make it simple for you. Once you have a professional title, you should go ahead and have a business card. If you are a junior engineer, it means you have a company. If you are a junior engineer in Google, for example, do have a business card. Do have maybe a couple of dozen of business cards. But yeah, you can still work on your LinkedIn, but I do not think that it's the wisest choice if people ask you for business cards in the networking events and you tell them, uh, I can share with you my LinkedIn. No, this is not how it works. You have to be old school and you have to share your business cards. And the other thing is, if they hand you with business cards, now we have their business cards, you have their emails, and you can still add them yourself on LinkedIn, and they will have access to your LinkedIn. That's when you're a junior. That's when you are a fresh graduate engineer. But if you are a junior engineer, it means you have a job. Again, once you have a title, it would be best to go ahead and have a business card. Amel, I hope that I answered your question. Yasin Malik is saying it all, but you may want to look up few cultural differences before you meet with these people. It will save you from embarrassment and communication breakdown. True. You can, if you know like what kind of profiles are attending, if you know the nationalities, I'm not sure like in networking events, you will always have the nationality. Just do some research. True. It's a good point, Jihan. Thank you. Following up on the question, if I find an act or a saying that offends somehow my culture from the other international party on our meeting, how can I approach it and like tell them to avoid doing that in the future in a formal and polite way, of course. Thank you again. Do it, but do it in an open mind way. In an open mind way, right? So even in a group, you don't need to do it like bilaterally, right? It's just like whenever you are in a group and someone says something that it might offend, you can say, oh, no, 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 no. Probably you should not say that when there are people, like, from this culture here or here or there or here, like, but do it like in an open mind way, right? Like, don't be close minded on addressing this. I know that it might offend, yes, but it's fine to take it. But like, do it in an open minded way and do it in a group. It would be best because in a group also would people will all the people in the group will understand that this is maybe not a good thing to use when you are, for example, with Tunisian, right, or with like people from the MENA region. But do it in an open mind way and do it like with a smile in your face. So this is really important. Yeah, so this is my comments to you, Yasin, and my comments to all of you. Hopefully I answered all your questions, unless you guys have another question. Again, I really like discussing topics like this. I like discussing business etiquettes. I like discussing work ethics because these are details that we do not pay attention to. I know that people, they focus more on learning soft skills, learning technical skills, learning program management, learning softwares. But then when it comes to business etiquettes, these are details that make difference. these are details that leave a really great impression, that leave a lasting impression. So I hope that, guys, you take advantage of this presentation. We will share with you the recording and it will be on my YouTube channel. Share it with your friends. Go through it again. If you have any questions, please send me a message on my social medias. Like you can use LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever you want. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, to be honest. So you can send me like messages on LinkedIn, but also Facebook and Instagram. You are welcome for those who do not have LinkedIn. But yeah, try to read books, guys, about business etiquettes and ethics for the office. It really help because details matter. Um, yeah, that's it from my side. Unless you guys have any other questions, otherwise we can wrap up the session. I'm not sure if Ghada is still with us. Um, yeah, of course, anytime, Amel. The next sessions, I think that they will be the next session. I think that it will be about leadership and storytelling. Next session, it will be really nice. Guys, feel free to share the link with your friends as well. It's really great that you all were here today because I really believe that business etiquette is really important topic that you need to know about it a little bit. But yeah, please, I mean, of course, like if you have time, attend the next sessions. These sessions are for free. These skills are important to learn. These skills are the skills that will matter in your professional career afterward. And yeah, feel free also to invite other friends, to share the link with other friends. And hopefully, I will get to meet you next week. And thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye bye.